The United States Navy built a $3.5 billion warship and deliberately removed its most important feature before it ever left the shipyard. Every naval analyst who reviewed the blueprints called it a mistake. Congress questioned the decision. Marines, who relied on that feature for every amphibious operation in the past 50 years, objected publicly. The Navy removed it anyway. And what looked like the most expensive design flaw in modern naval history turned out to be the single decision that broke Iran's entire defensive equation in a way that a $13 billion aircraft carrier never could. This is the amphibious assault ship USS Tripoli, and the decision was to remove the ship's well deck. Here we break down exactly why that decision was made, what it unlocks on the modern battlefield that nothing else in the fleet can replicate, and why Iran's military planners, who spent 30 years building a strategy specifically designed to destroy American warships, have no answer for a ship they were never supposed to fear. This is Conflict Vector, where we don't just cover weapons, we explain the math behind the conflict that makes them inevitable. To understand why removing that feature was a masterstroke, first you need to understand the problem it was designed to solve. And that problem begins in the Strait of Hormuz, where Iran has spent 3 decades building a trap specifically designed for the ships the Navy actually sends. The USS Tripoli is not an aircraft carrier. The Navy classifies it as an amphibious assault ship, a vessel designed to transport Marines and project force ashore. Its critics called it a failed compromise, a ship that gave up its core amphibious capability for aviation features that a real carrier already provides better. What those critics missed was the question that the Navy was actually trying to answer, not how to build a better carrier, how to put F-35B stealth fighters somewhere that Iran's missile batteries were not pointed. The answer is not the ship itself. It is what removing that one feature allowed the ship to become, and the kind of battlefield it allowed the Marines behind it to create. A battlefield Iran's targeting system was never designed to find. This video follows that decision from the shipyard to the strait, and explains why the ship labeled a mistake became the one Iran cannot plan around. Iran did not build a navy designed to fight the United States. It built a navy designed to make the United States too afraid to enter. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 nautical miles at its narrowest point. Through those 21 miles flows approximately 20% of the world's daily oil supply. Iran sits on its northern shore with 1,500 fast attack craft, land-based anti-ship missile batteries, a mine warfare capability refined over 4 decades, and coastal defense systems layered across the entire littoral zone. Iran's strategy has a name: Anti-Access Area Denial, A2AD. The objective is not to sink every American ship. It is to make the cost of entering the strait high enough that the United States recalculates the mission. Against a traditional aircraft carrier strike group, the strategy has real leverage. The carrier is large, valuable, irreplaceable, politically catastrophic to lose. It costs $13 billion to build and roughly $7 million per day to operate. A president does not risk a $13 billion carrier lightly. A commander does not send a $13 billion carrier where the threat calculus is uncertain. The ship's value makes it cautious. The caution creates distance. That distance is Iran's operational target. The carrier projects power from safety. Iran's A2AD doctrine is specifically designed to exploit the gap between where the carrier must operate and where the fight actually is. Keep American carriers far enough from the strait, and Iran controls what moves through it. For decades, the United States accepted that gap as a structural feature of the operational environment. The USS Tripoli was built to close it, not by being more powerful than a carrier, by being cheaper, more expendable, and far harder to fit into Iran's strategic planning cycle. But before understanding what Tripoli does differently, it is worth understanding what Iran's strategy looked like the last time the two sides met in the Persian Gulf. Because the lesson from 1988 shaped everything Iran built afterwards, and everything the Navy eventually decided to challenge. In 1988, Iran nearly sank an American warship with a weapon that cost less than a used car. The USS Samuel B. Roberts was a guided missile frigate escorting reflagged Kuwaiti oil tankers through the Persian Gulf when it struck an Iranian mine. The explosion nearly sank her. No crew members were killed, but the ship spent 18 months in repair at a cost of $90 million. The mine cost? Approximately $1,000. 4 days later, the United States launched Operation Praying Mantis, the largest American surface naval engagement since World War II. In a single day, U.S. forces destroyed 2 Iranian oil platforms, sank an Iranian frigate, and crippled several fast attack craft. By any tactical measure, it was an overwhelming American victory. Iran's mine was still in the water. The Roberts was still in the repair yard. The tactical victory did not change the strategic arithmetic. Iran drew 2 conclusions from 1988. First, asymmetric weapons work against large ships. Second, America will hesitate before risking something it can't afford to lose. 30 years of military investment followed from exactly those 2 conclusions. Iran spent those 30 years improving the mine, improving the missile, building a layered A2AD system specifically engineered around the assumption that when the United States responded, it would respond with the same kind of ships. The Tripoli is not the same kind of ship, and the decision that makes it different is the one everyone called a mistake. When the Navy released the blueprints for the USS Tripoli, the criticism was immediate. The ship had no well deck. The well deck is the internal flooded compartment in the stern of an amphibious assault ship where landing craft are stored and launched. It is how Marines get from the ship to the beach. It is the defining feature of amphibious warfare, standard on every major amphibious ship since World War II. The America-class designers removed it entirely. In its place, they built an enlarged hangar deck, expanded aviation fuel storage, additional aircraft maintenance facilities, and a flight deck optimized to operate 20 F-35B stealth fighters simultaneously. The ship was designed from the keel up around aviation. Marines objected. Analysts called it a strategic regression. The argument was straightforward. An amphibious ship without a well deck is not really an amphibious ship. It is a small aircraft carrier that costs almost as much as a real one and does neither job completely. Here is where that argument misses the point entirely. The Supercarrier is the 100% solution. It does everything: maximum firepower, maximum aircraft capacity, maximum strike range, maximum deterrence value. It is the most capable naval platform ever built. Tripoli is the 90% solution. It does enough aircraft, enough strike capacity, enough aviation support, enough presence to matter operationally. But the 90% solution costs $3.5 billion instead of $13 billion. It carries political risk differently. It gets deployed differently. It gets risked differently by the commanders who send it and the presidents who authorize where it goes. Capability wins presentations. Survivability wins wars. And a ship that can operate forward inside the threat envelope, closer to the strait, in positions a carrier cannot reach without accepting unacceptable risk, does more operational work than a more powerful ship sitting 200 miles away at a safe standoff distance. The well deck was not removed because the Navy stopped caring about amphibious capability. It was removed because a new doctrine emerged that made the well deck secondary to something far more operationally valuable in a contested maritime environment. That doctrine is the reason Iran's entire targeting system suddenly has a problem it was never designed to solve. EABO does not sound like a revolution. The acronym does not suggest one. What it does to Iran's decision-making cycle does. Expeditionary Advanced Base Operations is the Marine Corps' doctrine, formalized under Force Design 2030 that repositions small, mobile, low-signature Marine units ashore on temporary positions throughout a contested maritime area. Not massive beachhead landings, not sustained ground campaigns. Small teams, distributed, mobile, operating from positions that are difficult to locate, difficult to target, and easy to vacate before the enemy can identify and respond. Here is what that looks like at the Strait of Hormuz. A small Marine unit delivered to a strategically positioned island or coastline by MV-22 Ospreys, launched from the USS Tripoli operating over the horizon, establishes a temporary expeditionary advanced base. They carry HIMARS mobile rocket systems. They carry ground-based anti-ship missile batteries. They carry sensors feeding real-time targeting data to the fleet. Overhead, F-35B stealth fighters launched from Tripoli's deck provide air superiority, surveillance, and precision strike capability across the entire strait. Now consider what this creates for Iranian military planners. Iran's targeting system was built around finding ships. Large ships, ships with radar cross-sections, ships with thermal signatures, ships that move through predictable transit lanes and can be tracked from the shore. Now the targeting system has to find a Marine squad on a small island, and another one on a coastline 12 miles north, and a mobile missile battery that relocated 3 hours ago, and an F-35B that radar can't reliably detect, and a ship operating over the horizon that has not entered the threat envelope at all. The problem is no longer sinking the ship. The problem is finding the battlefield. Iran's missile batteries are calibrated for identifiable high-value targets. A temporary Marine position on an austere island does not register as a high-value target until it calls a precision strike that sinks a fast attack craft. By the time Iran identifies the position, the Marines are already moving to the next one. The F-35B is central to why removing the well deck was the correct decision. The aircraft requires significant deck space, aviation fuel reserves, and maintenance infrastructure that the old well deck design could not accommodate at scale. The Tripoli's enlarged hangar and expanded fuel capacity allow it to operate as a lightning carrier, a de facto stealth strike platform in forward positions where a full-size carrier can't operate safely or sustainably. Iran built locks on every door. EABO walks around the doors entirely. The carrier concentrates power. Tripoli distributes it. And distributed power is exponentially harder to target than concentrated power. The ship critics called a compromise became the ship that imposed a problem that Iran spent 30 years not planning for. And the cost structure that makes this possible is the final piece, because price changes everything about how a ship gets used and how an enemy plans to stop it. Iran's defensive strategy operates on one foundational assumption: the American military will come through the strait with identifiable, high-value platforms, carriers, destroyers, amphibious ships that can be tracked by radar, targeted by anti-ship missiles, and threatened by minefields and fast attack craft swarms. The strategy is not to defeat the United States outright. It is to raise the cost of entry high enough to create political hesitation in Washington. That assumption does not survive contact with the Tripoli. At $3.5 billion, the Tripoli is not cheap, but it is not a $13 billion carrier either. That price difference is not just an accounting figure. It is a behavioral variable that runs through every level of military decision-making. A commander will send a $3.5 billion ship where a $13 billion ship cannot go. A president will authorize risk around a $3.5 billion platform that would be unacceptable around an irreplaceable supercarrier. An adversary who built its entire strategy around threatening carriers suddenly finds that the fleet's forward operating ship is not the asset that Iran's political hesitation model was calibrated to hold at risk. Iran's A280 doctrine depends on the United States valuing its ships too much to use them forward. The Tripoli is expendable enough to use forward, and forward is exactly where the doctrine breaks. In 1988, a $1,000 mine put the Roberts in the repair yard for 18 months and generated 30 years of strategic hesitation. The cost asymmetry worked. The arithmetic favored Iran. The Tripoli answers that arithmetic not with a better mine detector, with a ship that operates where the mines are not, launches aircraft that radar cannot find, supports Marines already ashore before Iran's targeting system receives the first contact. The critics were right that removing the well deck made the Tripoli less capable of traditional amphibious operations. What they missed is that the traditional amphibious operation is exactly what Iran spent 30 years preparing to stop. Iran prepared for the fleet. Tripoli changed the shape of the war. The USS Tripoli is not powerful because it is better than a carrier. It is powerful because it changes the problem Iran has to solve. But here is the deeper truth. Iran built a targeting system optimized to destroy a fleet. Tripoli's real innovation is that it no longer arrives as one. It arrives as a Marine squad on an island. An F-35B with no radar return. A missile battery that moved an hour ago. A ship over the horizon that never entered the threat envelope. Iran spent 30 years preparing to stop ships. Tripoli was built to make ships irrelevant. And that is a problem no amount of mines, missiles, or fast attack craft was ever designed to solve.